Now, for our daily cancellation, we're going to be short and to the point here. I'm late on this, I admit, and part of me was hesitant to perform this cancellation because it seems so redundant. I mean, why bother canceling Jemele Hill? She's already permanently canceled. Every day is another cancelable offense from her. But this one, I just can't let go. I can't resist. It's the principle of it. So here's the latest from Jemele. A tweet. It says, been reading Isabel Wilkerson's new book, Caste. That's a book about racism in America. I haven't read it. Don't plan to. She says, if you were of the opinion that the United States wasn't nearly as bad as Nazi Germany, how wrong you are. Can't encourage you enough to read this masterpiece. If Jemele Hill calls a book a masterpiece, I'll be pretty sure to avoid it. But nearly as bad as Nazi Germany. Now, obviously, the very fact that you can even make this statement without being carted off to a camp somewhere is proof in and of itself that it's completely false. Jemele Hill's entire career at this point is proof that the statement is false. Her existence is focused around complaining about America and the president and telling us how evil our country is. And she does very well for herself. She makes plenty of money, very comfortable. Let me ask you, how much money do you think you could make or could have made in Nazi Germany if you went into the business of criticizing Germany and Hitler? I mean, how prominent and successful do you think you could have been? Some people did, in fact, do that. It wasn't much of a business. And they had to do it while they were in hiding, and most of them wound up dead. So this cannot be emphasized enough. The first clue that you are not under a fascist dictatorship is that you can go out in public and say, we are under a fascist dictatorship. Second clue is that actually in this country, you can do more than that. You can make that statement in the form of burning a building or throwing chunks of concrete at police. And you'll probably emerge unscathed. You can go home after a fun night of violent insurrection, pop some, leftover Chinese into the microwave, watch a little Netflix before bed. This should tell you something about the level of fascism in America, namely that the level is zero. Unless we're counting you, yourself, as the violent bully wreaking havoc and destruction as the fascist, in which case the level of fascism in America is you. And, we could go on for days here, giving other ways in which modern America differs from Nazi Germany because it differs in every conceivable way. Yet Jemele Hill is an allegedly educated person saying this. And lots of allegedly educated people agree and have said similar. So what does that tell us? It tells us, I think, the familiar story. First, that people in this country are woefully ignorant of the basic facts of history. We have reached catastrophic levels of ignorance. Now, people in this country, they know some names, Hitler, Thomas Jefferson, Columbus, and of course, they put all those people on the same moral level. And they know some events, World War II, 9/11, the moon landing, the building of the pyramids, the pilgrims were in there somewhere in between. But they have almost no fleshed out understanding of any of these people or events. And that's because a fleshed out, in-depth understanding, developing a real grasp of a subject, requires you to do things like read full entire books. You want to know about the rise of Nazism in Germany? Well, read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. One of the great nonfiction, great history books of all time, in my view. But it's 1,000 pages long, and a country full of people who have melted their brains and destroyed their capacity for concentration by ingesting nothing but TV and movies and YouTube videos aren't reading 1,000 pages, or even 10 pages. So this is, as I said, catastrophic levels of ignorance that we're dealing with in America. And yet, people, we would say that we are maybe the most informed society in the history of the world. We certainly have access to more information than any other society ever has. In the modern world, we have access to really all of the accumulated knowledge of mankind we have access to in these little devices that we carry around in our pockets. So we have access to a lot of information. We are, most of us, very informed in the sense that we have a lot of disjointed bits of trivia and little bits of this and that bouncing around in our noggins. But in terms of real understanding and actual knowledge of events and things that are occurring around us and have occurred in history, we don't have very much of that at all. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, of course, just the immense amount of privilege that you have to have, that someone like Jemele Hill must have. She's a well-known, prominent person. I don't know what her net worth is, but I can pretty much guarantee you it's considerably more than the average person's net worth. And as I said, she makes a living just complaining about America and often in quite absurd terms. Very comfortable. And yet she looks at her position in America and what she goes through as equivalent to the persecution of people under Hitler in Nazi Germany. The little bit of discomfort that she faces, you know, in her mind, it may as well be getting shipped off to a concentration camp because she is so privileged. And it's the same story. These rioters and looters, extraordinarily privileged people who encounter a little bit of pushback, a few obstacles, a few things don't go their way in their lives, and they cannot handle it. To them, it is a crisis. It is a historic persecution. It puts them, you know, in the same category as all of the horrifically oppressed and persecuted people of history. So that is, you want to talk about privilege, there it is right there. That's why Jemele Hill is, of course, canceled. But, you know, as I said, she'll be canceled again tomorrow, and we could do this anytime. And, you know, so every once in a while we'll check in with what Jemele Hill is doing and cancel her and then go about our business. So there it is. Hey, you, you right there. Hit the subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It's somewhat appreciated.